In the very heart of the War on Terror, is the White House going to destroy the career of a CIA spy just to save its narrative about Iraq? How far is a government prepared to go to silence those who contradict it? On the morning of the 21st century, the sky over the United States is clear. The air is light over New York. The sunlight slides over the Twin Towers like two columns raised toward the gods. But beneath this brightness, men are already moving in the shadows, driven by patient hatred, by a twisted will. They board the planes as one climbs onto a dark altar. No one stops them. On September 11th, 2001, the roar of the jet engines tears through the morning. A first blade of steel and fire pierces the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The burning blast hurls glass, flesh, and metal in a single scream. The smoke rises, black, thick, like a hand tightening around the city's throat. Cameras swing into place. Disbelief clings on for a few more moments. Then, in the already wounded sky, a second plane comes to strike the South Tower. This time, there is no more doubt. This is not an accident. It is an attack. In Arlington, Virginia, a third plane dives into the Pentagon, the stone heart of American military power. The ground trembles, offices explode, flames race along the slanted walls. An entire country comes to a halt. In front of screens, faces freeze. The world tips over live. The smoke from the towers rises for a long time, long after their collapse. Two giants of concrete crash into dust, into human and vitrified ashes. Over Manhattan, ruin falls like snow. Under this white and gray cloud, fear is born, settles, hardens. It becomes will. It becomes program. At the White House, a man watches these images. George W. Bush, sworn in just a few months earlier, sees the columns of his empire crumble live. Around him, names stand like ramparts. Dick Cheney, the vice president with the calculator's gaze. Donald Rumsfeld, master of weapons at the Pentagon. Condoleezza Rice, keeper of alarms and secrets at the National Security Council. They stand at the center of a whirlwind. They already hear the echo of a word that will never leave them. War. In the corridors, in the bunkers, in the windowless rooms, the screens fill with maps, diagrams, names. Al-Qaeda becomes the absolute enemy. The War on Terror is not a slogan, but a banner unfurled above invisible tanks, orders signed in haste. The country moves toward total mobilization. Fear turns into fervor. Vengeance seeks a face. American planes take off for Afghanistan. But already, beyond the mountains of the Hindu Kush, another horizon draws their gaze. Far away, in the dusty heat of Mesopotamia, rises the rigid silhouette of another tyrant, Saddam Hussein. In speeches, his name keeps coming up. In memos, his supposed weapons multiply. An idea takes shape. This war on terror will not remain confined to Afghan caves. It spreads. It seeks other targets, other justifications. On January 29, 2002, before Congress, George W. Bush rises to deliver his State of the Union address. The chamber is full, eyes fixed on the rostrum. The scars of September 11th are still open. Then his voice cracks out, deep, fervent, as he names the enemies he points out to the entire world. Iraq, Iran, North Korea. Three nations gathered under the same oracle, the axis of evil. The words fall like a verdict. they draw the battlefield to come. They set in stone Iraq's place among the threats to be eliminated. In the anonymous offices of Langley, Virginia, a quiet building houses a silent war. Here, the threat is not just a face, but an equation, a rumor, a shipment, a centrifuge. Among these hushed corridors works a woman whose name is not yet a symbol, whose face appears on no poster. Valerie Plame. She was born far from this marble capital, in Anchorage, Alaska, on August 13, 1963. Between mountains and glaciers, her childhood unfolds far from Washington's intrigues. But later, in the secrecy of late 1980s recruitment, the Central Intelligence Agency reaches out. She accepts. Her fate tilts into silence. At the CIA, Valerie Plame does not put herself on display. She covers herself. She becomes what must not be seen. A covert employee. A covert employee. Her life splits in two. A public facade, a hidden truth. She joins the Directorate of Operations, those discreet forces that do not fight in deserts, but in drawing rooms, in seemingly ordinary meetings, in the cafes of foreign capitals. Her specialty is not the daily swirl of political rumors, but a cold, almost abstract threat. Nuclear proliferation, weapons of mass destruction. At the heart of the Counter-Proliferation Division, she follows the invisible traces of atomic programs, supply chains, shell companies, fake contracts. She studies the countries seeking absolute power in hidden facilities. She doesn't carry a rifle. She carries files, contacts, cover legends that protect not only her life, but also that of those who speak to her in the shadows of the harshest regimes. The CIA will later confirm this covert status. But for now, no statement, no spotlight. Only the discretion that saves. In Washington, to outside eyes, Valerie Plame is just another professional among many. She appears under the aegis of a private company, Brewster Jennings and Associates. A business that, in truth, exists only as a mask, a facade, a metal plate on a door, an identity to conceal another. This stratagem protects her missions, protects a network, protects years of patient work. As long as no one speaks her name in public, that protection holds. Born November 6, 1949 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Wilson chooses the diplomatic path. He learns the codes of embassies, the nuances of phrases, the weight of silence. His steps lead him to Africa, to lands where crises sometimes unfold far from the cameras, but not far from the world's interests. Then the road turns toward a place that will mark him forever, Baghdad. Between 1988 and 1991, he becomes the American chargé d'affaires in Iraq. It is not a ceremonial post. It is a seat on the edge of a volcano. When the Kuwait crisis erupts, he is there, inside a hardline regime, facing a Saddam Hussein defying the international order. Wilson watches over American nationals, organizes their protection, manages their departures, gauges the intentions of the Iraqi leadership. He walks the tightrope stretched between war and diplomacy. After the storm, another shore receives him, Gabon, São Tomé and Príncipe. Between 1992 and 1995, he serves there as U.S. ambassador. But his intimate link with Iraq, with the Middle East, remains engraved in his history. The years go by. He ends up leaving official duties, but not the world of foreign policy. In Washington, he becomes a consultant, commentator, a respected voice on TV sets, at conferences, in those circles where public perceptions are shaped. In 1998, His path crosses that of Valerie Plame. Two careers meet, one public, the other secret. They join their lives in Washington, marry, and build a home in the federal capital. Around them, friends, dinners, conversations. Joseph Wilson appears in plain sight, analyzing crises. Valerie, for her part, extends her days in windowless offices, on trips one does not discuss. Under the same roof, two parallel lives coexist. One visible, the other protected by law, by secrecy, by the trust of the state. Starting in 2001, a new kind of rumor spreads through American and British intelligence services. A concern taking the shape of a mineral, of yellow rocks pulled from African soil. Uranium. Fragments of reports circulate. They suggest that Iraq is seeking to buy this heavy metal from Niger, a country that has deposits and has traded for decades with foreign powers. Documents land on desks. Alleged contracts, letters, indications of a possible deal between Baghdad and Niamey. The CIA receives them. Other agencies examine them. The prospect is clear. If Saddam is seeking uranium, he may be feeding a secret nuclear program. For an administration already determined to regard him as a threat, these papers become tempting pieces in a future indictment file. But a shadow of doubt hangs over them. Some analysts frown. Details don't add up. Signatures look odd. Dates don't match. The CIA wonders, is this a solid lead or a dangerous mirage that would steer the nation toward war on distorted grounds? At the same time, in the Vice President's office, Dick Cheney and his team scrutinize these same rumors with keen interest. The Office of the Vice President demands clarification, pushing the intelligence community to take a closer look at this information about Nigerian uranium. February 2002 is approaching. The CIA, through its operations branch, assembles the pieces of a discrete mission. No large delegation, no media. They need a man capable of speaking with Nigerian officials, assessing what they say, understanding local subtleties. A man who knows Africa, who has walked the soil of authoritarian regimes, who can read between the lines. A name resurfaces: Joseph C. Wilson IV. In internal meeting rooms, officers wonder, whom to send, how, under what cover? Valerie Plame, within the CIA, takes part in one of these meetings. Her husband is mentioned. She passes along his resume. This gesture will later be turned against her, exaggerated, instrumentalized. But at that moment, it is only one element in the machinery of intelligence. A profile is flagged, submitted to others for review. The decision does not depend on her alone. It is taken after internal exchanges, evaluations, in the shadow of procedures. The mission is set in motion. In February 2002, Joseph Wilson, former ambassador, seasoned diplomat, flies to Niger. He wears no uniform, no fanfare at his departure. He leaves like many silent envoys, with a notebook, a trained memory, and a vague mandate that will be refined later. His purpose is clear: to verify whether the country has sold or is seeking to sell its uranium to Iraq. In Niamey, he meets Nigerian officials past and present. They know the workings of the uranium industry, past contracts, the habits of partners. He also sees representatives of companies tied to this ore, men who know how a shipment can, in theory, change hands. Conversations follow one after another. In overheated offices, in austere sitting rooms, words circulate. The officials explain the controls, the constraints, the volumes. Nothing in what they describe resembles a recent deal with Baghdad. The days pass. Wilson listens, compares, cross-checks. He does not have access to everything. He does not have the powers of an international judge, nor the omnipotence of a spy novel. But with his experience, he assesses what he sees, what he hears, what he already knows of the global uranium market. And little by little, a conclusion imposes itself on him. There is, to his knowledge, no credible evidence that a significant uranium deal was struck between Niger and Iraq in recent years. He returns to the United States. In CIA offices, he gives an oral debriefing. He recounts his meetings, his impressions, his conclusions. His remarks are compiled and poured into the ocean of intelligence that flows in every day. His message is clear. He does not confirm the rumor, he undermines it. In October 2002, George W. Bush travels to Cincinnati, Ohio. Before a country mentally preparing for conflict, he portrays Iraq as a growing threat, insisting on its weapons of mass destruction programs. In this weaving of fears and arguments, the issue of fissile material appears. Without going into details, the speech recalls the specter of a Saddam seeking uranium, ultimate weapons. The shadow of Africa, already sketched out behind the scenes, flickers faintly before the public. Soon after, Congress votes. Still in October, lawmakers adopt the Authorization for Use of Military Force Against Iraq Resolution of 2002. By passing this law, they give the president the legal key to trigger the war. On paper, it is a text. In practice, it is a door open to tanks, missiles, bombs. The months go by. In White House offices, a crucial speech is being polished, the State of the Union Address, scheduled for January 28, 2003. Every sentence counts. Every word can justify, inflame, reassure, or frighten. By the end of this speech, 1,500 words, 1,000 and more, will have flowed. But 16 of them will enter history. The British government has learned that Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium from Africa. 16 words spoken before Congress under the cameras of the world. 16 words that invoke British intelligence to assert that Iraq sought significant quantities of uranium in Africa. No country named, no Niger cited. But for those following the case, the target is clear. These 16 words are etched live into the argument for the coming war. Yet behind this sentence, in the penumbra of the agencies, not everyone is convinced. At the CIA, at the Department of State, some analysts doubt, contest, recall their reservations. They run up against determined political wills, against a narrative already launched. The doubts remain, recorded in reports, drowned in the tumult. On March 19, 2003, it is no longer time to discuss. The weapons speak. Operation Iraqi Freedom begins. Sirens wail in Baghdad. American and Allied troops cross the borders. Missiles rain down on palaces, barracks, command centers. The war that had been announced, prepared, justified for more than a year is finally unleashed on Iraqi soil. On April 9, 2003, cameras filmed a scene destined to become iconic. A statue of Saddam Hussein in a Baghdad square collapsing under the pull of ropes wielded by jubilant men, under the gaze of American soldiers. An era seemed to be ending in the dust of this toppled monument. On May 1, 2003, on the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, George W. Bush appeared in a flight suit, with a "Mission Accomplished" banner behind him. He announced the end of major combat operations. Search teams, inspectors, and specialized units combed through the country. They opened warehouses, questioned scientists, examined facilities. But the large stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons, and especially the feared nuclear arsenal, failed to appear. The hiding places remained empty, the maps misleading. Gradually, concern shifted into challenge. In newsrooms, in the corridors of Congress, voices were raised. They did not just question the difficulty of stabilizing Iraq, but the very basis of the original decision. What intelligence really justified this war? On what was the talk of African uranium and terrifying programs based? The 16 words kept coming back like a bitter refrain. Joseph Wilson watched. He knew a part of this story. He had set foot in Niger, questioned its officials. He knew what he had told the CIA. He knew what he had not found. And now, he heard an official account that seemed to ignore his mission, his report, his warning. At first, his disagreement remained discreet. He spoke in private, with selected interlocutors, letting his incomprehension show through at the way his conclusions had been handled. Then, over the weeks, as the criticism grew stronger and the issue of intelligence became thorny, he felt another imperative rising, that of speaking out publicly. For in the din of war, in the alleys of Baghdad, in the minds of those who had lost loved ones or were preparing to leave for the front, a question was taking shape, slow, relentless. Had a people been led to war on inaccurate grounds? Had information been, somewhere, skewed, cherry-picked, amplified? The truth, still buried, was beginning to struggle against the lids clamped down on it. Joseph Wilson, the man who had been sent to Niger in the discretion of February 2002, stood at the edge of this turning point. One more step, and he would leave the closed circle of confidants to enter the public arena, where speech has a price, where every sentence can trigger a counterattack. In the offices of the White House, some already knew it. If this diplomat told what he had seen, what he had not found, he would not only be calling a minor technical detail into question, he would be touching the very heart of the war's legitimacy. And behind him, without his yet knowing it, another target was already taking shape in the shadows. The woman who shared his life, whose agent name lay buried deep in the CIA's records. Valerie Plame did not yet know the precise form of the coming storm, but fate had already begun to circle their home. A column of words would soon place them both at the center of a drama where state secrets, political revenge, and the destruction of a patiently built clandestine life would all be entangled.